When it comes to planning a trip to Hawaii and thinking about which island to visit, Maui is definitely at the top of most people's list. But there's some things you got to know before you go. And in today's episode, it is a replay of an episode that I did with Andrew Fowers of Shaka Guide, which is a GPS travel guide right on your phone. And what we did was we covered an overview of Maui, kind of a Maui travel guide. In the past few episodes, we've been doing a deep dive into what to know and some things to do on the island of Maui. And today we're going to be wrapping up that little mini series, if you will, with this being our most downloaded episode on Hawaii's Best. And it is our Maui travel guide with Andrew Fowers of Shaka Guide. So stay tuned for this one. It's jam-packed with a lot of great info if you're considering on visiting the island of Maui.
Aloha! Welcome to Hawaii's Best. Here, you'll learn what to know before traveling as we discover Hawaiian culture, local businesses, and the experiences that make Hawaii one of the most incredible places in the world. And now, your host, Bryan Murphy.
Aloha and welcome to another episode of Hawaii's Best, where we help prepare you for your next trip to Hawaii. I'm your host, Bryan Murphy, the owner of Hawaii's Best, and with me again is our good friend, Andrew Fowers, co-founder, CEO of Shaka Guide. What's going on, man?
How's it going? Thanks for having me.
Last time I said this is becoming a thing, and it's a thing. So this is a lot of fun.
It's cool. I've lived here a long time. I know the islands really well, and I just love to kind of talk about them and give a chance to have our listeners learn more about these islands. And today, Maui.
Yeah, Maui. And we covered Oahu on a previous episode. We find ourselves in this island tour travel guide, if you will, over the islands, the four major islands. And today we are talking about Maui, or the Valley Isle. And it got its nickname. If you ever been to Maui and you land and then you get off the plane and you're driving, you find yourself kind of like right in the smack dab of central Maui. You got Haleakala, the enormous volcano to one side, and you got the West Maui Mountains to the other side. And that's kind of where it got its nickname, the Valley Isle. Maui is the second largest island in terms of size, and it also includes, when we talk about Maui, we're talking about Maui County, which includes the islands of Lanai and Molokai. But today we're going to be focusing all about the island of Maui. So, Andrew, take us around the island a little bit, break down the different sides, the different regions, and then maybe we can dive into each of those as we get into this.
Yeah, definitely. So how we kind of structured this podcast was just basically around the regions first. And for each of these regions, we'll kind of talk a bit about what to do there, things to check out, restaurants, stuff like that. So just to kind of break it down, if you look at the island, it's shaped kind of like with a big valley in the middle. We have the West Maui, which is a very unique outcropping on the left. And this is the resort areas like Kaanapali, Kapalua, and Lahaina. And then in that flat area, we have Central Maui, and this is kind of where we have ʻIole Valley, Wailuku, we have Kahului, and the airport. Just up the mountains, there's Haleakala, which is this huge mountain, which is basically, the entire eastern side of the island. It's unavoidable, right? You see it wherever you go. It's like yep. Haleakala, 10,000 foot above the ocean. It's crazy. So right on the slopes, they have what's called Upcountry Maui. And there you have some cool farms. You have some local businesses. You have just beautiful, nice, cool climates up there. Then you have South Maui, which is actually, if you going from that valley flat area and you drive south, we have Kihei and South Maui. And there's also, if you keep driving, you have Wailea. These are also more of like a bunch of vacation rentals, resort area. Mm-hmm. They have some nice beaches there as well, some like shopping and restaurants and stuff. And then last but not least, we have East Maui, which is basically, it's most famously known for the road to Hana, but we have Hana Town on the east side and Kaupo on the backside, which is kind of more of the remote side of Maui that people do like to drive around. So that's kind of the rundown on the different parts of the island. And today we discuss trying to go through and discuss these each a little bit, one at a time.
So much to unpack, and I know we won't be able to get like a deep dive into every one of those regions and areas and, best places to eat and all that. We'll cover some of that. So Andrew, with all that, let's go ahead and start with West Maui, because chances are, if you've visited Maui, you've probably stayed on West Maui, or you've probably stayed in Kihei area in South Maui. But let's start with West Maui.
I mean, West Maui, you do have a mountain range there, but most of the resort area is kind of on the beach side.
Right.
Beautiful white sand beaches. During the winter months, if you're lucky, you can see whales just right off the beach, cresting and breaching. It's just a beautiful view there. You can also see Lanai, actually, from the West Maui coast there. There are some beautiful beaches in the Kaanapali Beach Resort area. There's multiple hotels there. And then we have Kapalua and Lahaina. So those are kind of the three big areas in West Maui where there are, variety of shopping, hotels, and some restaurants.
One of the most surprising things about West Maui is you may not realize, because especially if you do a trip over to Hana, West Maui is really dry.
Yeah.
But as you're driving in, you'll probably see that pretty quickly. That it is a pretty dry area over there.
Yeah, and there's one thing I definitely don't want to forget is before all of these resort areas popped up, original, it was Lahaina.
Right.
Lahaina is the original port city. It actually was the capital of the Hawaiian monarchy at an earlier time. Anyways, Lahaina is an old, fun town there. Nice little walking town with many of the big cruise boats anchor offshore, and then they have boats coming in. It actually is an old whaling community back in the day. So there's a lot of cool old stories and some history back when it was kind of like the wild, wild west of Hawaii. That's where you get all the sailors and the bars and all that stuff. But beyond that, there's also a lot of historical and cultural significance. And so what's cool about Lahaina is actually it's a walking town. So there's a bunch of plaques. There's a free walking tour map where you can go and explore some of the historical areas there. So it's a fun town. Definitely recommend checking it out if you go to West Maui.
Yeah, it was really cool. Last time we were on Maui, we took Shaka Guide with us, the tour, and we, driving through Lahaina town, and so much of the history you don't realize as you're driving through. You're just like, oh, this is a cute little town, and it's like the history there is so rich, and it's not that far from that resort area of Kaanapali that maybe you're probably staying at. So you're gonna check out. You get all this history, and it's cool. And you're walking around, you're eating, but you can only walk around and eat so much. What are some things to do in West Maui area?
So once you're kind of done chilling at the resorts, which, definitely want to spend a few days just chilling, pool, beach, get sunburn, eat a lot. That's what we want to do on our vacation. But after that, it's okay, I want to get out and explore. So on the West Maui coastline, there are some cool beaches to check out, of course, the resort areas. But if you go past Kapalua on the north side, there's a place called Honolua Bay. It's a sweet surfing spot in the winter, but there's also some really good snorkeling there in the summer when it's less wavy. So there's a little hike out there. It's kind of more of a rocky beach, but it's a fun place to check out. You also have D.T. Fleming's Beach. There's some beaches near Lahaina as well as Slaughterhouse Beach. Slaughterhouse is a little bit more challenging because the parking is limited and you have to take stairs down. All of these are good for surfing, good for checking out. Some have more parking than others. I think Honolulu is probably your best bet for a beach to check out there. But it's just driving around, checking out nature and checking out just the raw ocean. I think that's really pretty. Some other things though to check out that are also kind of fun is there are a couple hikes in the West Maui area. Specifically in Kapalua, there's a trail called the Dragon Teeth Trail or Dragon Tooth Trail, depending on who you ask. And you can park in the Kapalua area. There is some, public parking there, only a few stalls. So if not, you might have to park further out of the resort area and hike in, or park at the Sundry Mini Mart there and then walk in. But it's a cool little hike. They call it the Dragon Teeth because it looks like dragon teeth on the trail, which are rocks. It's a short hike on the coast, kind of in a peninsula there. So that's fun. Ojai Trail, that one's much further. It's a trail really deep into West Maui. So if you're driving around the whole entire West Maui, there's this Ojai Trail it's much smaller, and they name it after that because there's a plant there that's unique to that area called the Ojai. the coolest thing, which I think to do, which you should definitely do if you have a rental car, you're driving West Maui, is go to the Nakalele blowhole. That is a little bit further. I think from Kapalua, it's like maybe 30 to 45 minutes drive. It's like this natural blowhole. When the waves are in the right condition, it launches water like 30, 45 feet in the air.
It's awesome.
Super cool.
Yeah.
Just some cautions. Make sure you don't get close to the ocean's edge. Sometimes there's big waves that come in and people get hurt. Look at the blowhole from a distance. Take some pictures. Don't get near the blowhole, although some people think they're like invincible, but it's really fun. So just check out Nakalele blowhole if you're out there on West Maui.
Yeah. How far up does that drive go on the west side?
I mean, it's a full day drive. If you want to do the whole loop, it's a full day. But just as like a little heads up, if you go past the Nakalele blowhole, the road starts to get more narrow. Sometimes there's no medium. No medium. It's a 2-lane road, and that's it. So you really have to be cautious. In one part there on the West Maui, it's a 1-lane road. So you have to like yield to oncoming traffic, and it's just a little white knuckle driving. So if you're not familiar or feel confident driving in some more precarious situations, just avoid driving the whole loop and just turn around after the blowhole. But if you're up for it, we do have the Shaka Guide tour. We do have a tour that takes you out there and around the full circle. I've done it. I think it's fine. But I've talked to some friends and they're thinking like, dude, that was super sketchy, man. Like, so be cautious. And if you don't feel up for it, then just turn around. But it's still fun either way.
Right. And even if you're staying in the Kaanapali area, the beach right there, I know we kind of touched on it, but there's also a lot of activities. You can learn to surf, you can, get on an outrigger, and that's a cool like morning to get out there and do that. So
for sure.
Yeah, waves there are pretty chill. So,
and the shopping, there's like tons of shopping.
Right. Whalers Village,
Whalers Museum, a bunch of restaurants and stuff there. So I'm not going to recommend one in particular because there's too many to recommend, but just go check out some local food, try some of their fish. I mean, it's all really fresh.
Right. All right. So that's, I think, a good overview of West Maui, where you'll probably spend, I would say, majority of your time if your hotel is over there. Going back over to Central Maui, Andrew, as you driving in between West Maui Mountains and Haleakala, what can we explore Central Maui area?
So actually, Central Maui has kind of been going through some transition. It used to be a bunch of cane fields where they grew sugar cane for many, many generations. Now it's kind of switched over to other things like hemp. They also have a cool like sunflower garden out there you can check out. But if you're looking at Central Maui, it's kind of broken up into basically 2 cities that connect. And one is Kahului, which is the airport and kind of the main area. Mm-hmm. Then we have Wailuku, which is more like locals, older town, but it has a fun little walking area there as well. Not a lot of visitors spend a lot of time in the Central Maui unless you're staying there. They do have the Queen Kahumanu Shopping Center, which is like kind of the biggest mall out there. They also have Maui Ocean Center kind of in that Central Maui area. The other thing I like to check out on the Central Maui is actually the ʻIole Valley. So that actually takes you into the valley there. It's a cool state park next to the river. So those are some of the things to check out. There's also some petroglyphs you can check out. It's near the Maui Ocean Center area, and also some good food as well. Mama's Fish House is like legendary. Yeah. It's basically like really good fresh fish, little pricey, need advanced reservation. But I mean, everyone's asking like, oh, I want to go to Mama's Fish House. So recommend checking out if you have the chance. If not, there's also some great alternatives. The Paia Fish Market is, I think, on par with Mama's Fish House, and it's more of a fast casual setup.
Yeah. What about any beaches over in that area?
Yeah, so the beaches to check out would be like Ho'okipa Beach. Mm-hmm. That's like the windsurfing, kite surfing capital of the world. I swear, like every time you drive by, there are tons and tons of windsurfers and kite surfers. When the conditions are right, they get launched like 50 feet in the air. That's not even insane. Joking. Like,
nope.
So super cool to kind of just watch from the distance.
Yeah.
And the other cool anomaly there in Ho'okipa is turtles like to nap there at night. So if you kind of go during the evening, you'll see a bunch of like black rocks. And if you look closely, like there's a lot of turtles there that are also just kind of chilling out, camouflage like. Of course, keep your distance, but just take pictures.
Right.
The other one to check out is Jaws. This is a unique beach because it's probably the biggest surf in the United States. When it's going off, it's up to 40-foot high surf. It's very, very unique conditions to get that way. Normally, it's like a lake. It's very like no waves at all, but in the right conditions, 1 or 2 times a year, Jaws is legendary, huge surf. And it's so big, they have to get towed in by a jet ski. It's kind of like a dirt road to get out there. But I mean, if it's going, check it out. But it's very rare that it does.
Awesome. Yeah, I think a lot of people have heard of Jaws or the legend of Jaws. And yeah, that's kind of where you'll find that. Okay. Upcountry Maui and Haleakala, that's probably one of the on everyone's must-do list. Let's talk a little bit about that. All right, so to jump on in here before we talk about East Maui and we talk about Road to Hana, and it is time for Any Kind News. And on this edition of Any Kind News, we are talking about the Green Bill. And Hawaii lawmakers are considering a bill that would require visitors to purchase an annual pass to access the state's parks, forests, and hiking trails. If enacted, an online system would be implemented for non-residents to obtain a license, while Hawaii residents would be exempt. Violators could face penalties, but not during the 5-year transition and education period. The bill comes as the state sees a surge in popularity amongst tourists. Governor Josh Green initially proposed a $50 climate impact fee for each visitor to preserve natural and cultural resources. However, concerns about potential constitutional rights violations led lawmakers to consider the annual license instead. Governor Green highlighted that the 10 million annual tourists should help support the state's environment. Hawaii's House Tourism Committee Chairman Sean Quinlan noted 50% increase in hiking by travelers, with many seeking lesser-known spots in the state. However, the state lacks the funds to manage these areas adequately. With climate change causing further issues, Hawaii invests in sustainability efforts, but the overwhelming number of tourists strains resources. The proposed fund would apply to non-residents aged 15 years and older and be managed by the Department of Land and Natural Resources. The Hawaii Green Fee Coalition is advocating for a green fee to protect and maintain the state's natural resources impacted by tourism. While many locals support the legislation, several details such as the locations requiring a license and the fees still need to be finalized. If passed, Hawaii would become the first U.S. state to implement a tourist fee or license. I'd love to know what your thoughts are on this green bill. Would you purchase an annual pass to access the state parks, forests, and hiking trails when visiting Hawaii? Let us know in the comments at hawaiisbesttravel.com/episode 82. That's 82. Now back to my conversation with Andrew Fowers of Shaka Guide as we talk about the east side of Maui.
So upcountry Maui, it's about 30 minutes from Kahului in the airport. You have to drive uphill, of course. It's the major town there is like Kula, but they also have Makawao. And Makawao is more of a country cowboy town. Some cool eats there, nice little walking community, quaint little boutiques and stuff. Makawao, check out that. And then Kula, a lot of like Airbnb or vacation rentals kind of spread out in the area. There are a few hotels, but not many. What people like to do in Kula and the upcountry area is actually check out all these cool farms. Like what's unique about upcountry is it's in the shadow of Haleakala. And so the clouds kind of get blocked there, and which creates a nice moist environment. So it's super different compared to West Maui where it's dry. Right. Upcountry is much more wet, green. So there's some cool farms to check out if you have a chance. Ali'i Kula Lavender Farm is a good one. Protea Farm, they have some tours there. Kula Country Farms. The Maui Winery, which they have like this cool like pineapple wine. And then the Surfing Goat Dairy where they make goat chocolate and goat cheese and stuff like that. My favorite is actually the Kula Botanical Garden. That one is paid admission, but it's like totally worth it. It's this really old, nicely maintained botanical garden to check out. I went there with my family a while back, and we actually did some photos there that we still have up on our wall.
That's cool.
Any of those farms are nice to check out. You know, some of them have farm tours where they take you on a tour. Some you can just kind of self-guide and browse. It just kind of depends on what you're interested in.
Okay. Now let's go ahead and get to Haleakala.
Yeah, so specifically Haleakala, it's like, okay, you've checked out the farms. Now let's go up the mountain, all right? So it goes very steep for a very short distance. So it has a lot of switchbacks. Along the way, you'll just start to see more and more and more of the valley. Eventually, it'll start to open up to where you can see inside the Haleakala crater, which is actually about the size of Manhattan Island. That's how big the crater is. So as you go up, there's 3 or 4 viewpoints that we recommend in the Shaka Guide tour where you can stop and like check out different perspectives of the crater. There's also some fun hikes to check out as you make your way up the mountain. We have the Hosmer Grove, which is kind of near the front entrance. They also have the Halema'u crater hike, as well as the sliding sands trail. Those you can do in certain parts, like there and back 2 mile, or maybe a there and back half mile. I mean, when you're so high up, like a half mile feels like 3 miles because the oxygen is so
the elevation,
low.
right? Yeah.
The elevation is like, dude, like I cannot like go as far as I thought. So there's some fun hiking, but if you're not up for hiking, I mean, just driving it and getting some cool photos and then going to the summit and seeing the view, it's totally worth it. It easily can be done in about a half day, but it can also take up to a full day if you really want to just take your time and see the sights. And one other thing to mention is Haleakala has a ton of legends and stories about Maui, the demigod, about how he lassoed the sun. Just some fun stories there. Maui, the Hawaiian Superman, is the song there.
Brother is.
So it definitely has some epic views, clouds. I mean, they call it the Sea of Clouds, actually, because when the weather's right, all you see is an ocean of clouds, and there's like, and then that's where the sun rises. So beautiful sunrise, very cold in the morning, but definitely worth it. If you have the time, check it out, Haleakala.
So one of the things with Haleakala, I mean, it's on everyone's, like we mentioned, it's on everyone's to-do list. If someone wants to see a sunrise, what are some of the steps, right now to be aware of?
Yeah, so first of all, if you want to go to see the sunrise, you need an advanced reservation. And you can go to the National Park website. There's a place to do it. It only costs a couple bucks, and you only need a reservation from 4 a.m. to 7 a.m. After that, it's just normal National Park price admission. But specifically for the sunrise, you need that reservation. That's just to control the crowds a little bit at the mountain because there's not a lot of parking up there. But other than that, if you want to go any other time or even sunset, which is also a nice alternative, you don't need a reservation there.
Okay. Going to South Maui, and if you are traveling to Maui, this is probably the other area. If you're not staying in West Maui, you're probably over in South Maui. It's a bit dry and sunny over there as well. What do you want to talk about with South Maui, Andrew?
So yeah, let's talk a little bit about South Maui. So it's about 30-minute drive from Kahului. Beautiful resort area. There are a bunch of beaches along the drive there. So basically you have resorts as you're driving down, the Kihei and Wailea. There's hotels and some resorts, kind of like more smaller ones. You don't get a lot of big hotels in Kihei, and then some beaches on the right. As you continue to go down, there is the Wailea area, and there's some big shopping area there. There's also some bigger hotels to check out as you make your way down into Wailea. Some of those are pretty high-end hotels. And then further down into the end of the road, you have Makena, and there's some beaches there and some snorkeling to check out. From this area, they also pick up their tours for the snorkeling tour for Molokini, and that's where you can pick up to see take a boat out to the Molokini Island there to check out the snorkel tour. Other than that, I mean, South Maui is pretty basic. Yeah. It's more for people just to chill, resort, beach, similar to West Maui.
Right.
Just a lot of great options just to kind of hang out.
now probably like the most epic East Maui road to Hana. Let's unpack some of what it is, some of the history, and some, I think probably more so right now, the etiquette and some things to be aware of if you're wanting to put Road to Hana on your to-do list.
Yeah, so if you want to check out East Maui, it really is, the road to Hana is the way in, right? That road actually, you can drive all the way around the island, or you can just drive to Hana and back. If you are not wanting to do a long road trip with a bunch of turns and see waterfalls, then the road to Hana may not be for you. I've heard some people like, it's too intense, it's too long, and they're not up for it. But if you're up for an adventure and you want to really see the real authentic side of Maui, then I think the road to Hana is a lot of fun for families. Back in the 80s, they made this cassette tape where you push play and it would talk and tell you where to go and check out the different stops along the road to Hana. Then it was like a CD. Now there's like an app for it. So I'm going to try to give you an overview of what that experience will be like. But bottom line is, it makes most sense to check out an app. The Shaka Guide also has an app for the road to Hana where we have a driving tour that will take you in and talk story and tell you some of the cool stops to check out along the way. But just really quick to unpack it, it's a 1.5 lane highway, sometimes 2 lanes. And it's about 64 miles from Paia town all the way into Hana, 620 curves, as well as 59 bridges. And some of those bridges are 1-lane bridges. So it's a lot of turns, a lot of curvy curves.
Right.
But in that area, there's, I think, 13 something possible waterfalls to check out. Some of the top spots that people like to check out on the road to Hana is Twin Falls, also the Waianapanapa State Park, which you currently need a reservation to go to, similar to Haleakala.
Also known as the Black Sand Beach, yeah?
Yeah, so Waianapanapa is known as the Black Sand Beach. There's a walking area. It's beautiful. They're just trying to limit the number of people at the same time, and that's the reason for the reservation system.
Gotcha.
But some other fun stops I think is Hana Town itself. You can go into Hana and there's a little bay there you can check out. I'd recommend like getting some food in Hana Town and then going to the beach to watch the waves and stuff. If you're adventurous and you want to push a little bit further, you can turn around after Hana Town and just go back. That's fine. If you want to push a little further, you can go all the way to what's called the 7 Sacred Pools or the 7 Sacred Falls and the PPY Trail, which is in the Kipahulu district of the Haleakala National Park. And this is a beautiful, well-maintained part of the national parks where you can swim. Sometimes the swimming is closed if there's been recent flooding or flash flooding. But if you can't swim, the PPY Trail is beautiful as well. It's a hike that you can see 2 waterfalls as you hike up. And if you go all the way to the end, you can see this Waimoko Falls and hike through this cool bamboo forest. So definitely something to check out if you go into the Haleakala. The Kipahulu side, they're called the 7 Sacred Pools.
Yeah, the bamboo forest, that's where you can find that. That's one of those. I know whenever we'll post about it, you get some people, where's that on Maui? And I didn't know that. Yeah, that's where you could find that. So now this is like an all-day adventure, and I'm sure it takes all day, especially if you're you're staying on West Maui. This is like the whole other side and all the loop-de-loops and all the 59 bridges.
Yeah.
Like, how long does this take?
I mean, if you're planning to do the road to Hana, it's definitely like an all-day thing, and even more so. So just be prepared that you need to start early, especially if you're staying in the Kapalua or the Kanapali side of the island. It's going to take 45 minutes just to get to the Paia town. So you need to be up at like 7 at least, driving to Paia, start the road to Hana about 8:30, and you're good. And then from there, I mean, it seriously will take all day just for you. You'll probably won't even get to Hana town until 1 o'clock. Yeah. And so that's why I say kind of eat lunch in Hana. But then if you go all the way to the 7 Sacred Pools, I mean, you won't get there till 3 or 4. hang out and swim. There's some bunch of stuff to check out there. And then if you decide to, you have a couple choices actually. Once you reach the 7 sacred pools, you can either just turn around, and it's about 2 hours drive all the way back. Mm-hmm. And I mean, it feels like it's a never-ending drive going there, but actually the way back, it goes pretty quickly. So plan on about 2.5 hours on the return trip. If you're wanting to avoid driving at night, just make sure you leave a little ahead of time so you don't get caught in the dark. You can drive it at night, but it's a little bit safer to do it during the daytime.
Yeah, especially this isn't your normal commute. You want to...
Yeah, you really have to be cautious because there's a lot of blind curves and, cars will come whipping around and you don't want to do any head-on. So you really got to take it slow and cautious, especially on the way back. When you're kind of like tired, you're like, dude, I want this to be done already. And that's where you need to be most cautious so you don't get any accidents and stuff.
Doing Road to Hana and even backing up when we're talking about Haleakala, those are maybe a couple things would encourage you to do maybe in the beginning of your trip, especially if you're traveling from the mainland of the U.S. You're probably 3 to maybe even 6 hours ahead of, Hawaii time. So you're naturally going to be getting up at 4 a.m. and getting going. So that would be something to, if you're thinking, as Andrew was talking, leave your hotel by 7. Well, you're probably going to be getting up by 4 anyway. So
another thing to be aware of is the road to Hana also has a lot of locals that use that road as they commute. So just some careful etiquette here. Please be respectful of the locals that travel that road. Be cautious. Don't speed. And if someone is driving faster behind you, then just let them pass. Right. Again, don't be in a hurry on the road to Hana. Take your time, but also let the local traffic pass because when you get stuck behind a visitor that's like, oh, dang, this is beautiful. And the local's like, dude, I do this every day. Get out of the way. When you're there, also just remember this is actually someone's home, that people live there and they live on and near the road to Hana. So that we as visitors need to be respectful of that.
Yeah, definitely. You're visiting this area, keep in the back of your head or maybe in the front of your mind, this is actually someone's, home. This is where they live. And especially right now, and even coming off of last year, 2020, resources are super limited on this side of the island. So just being cognizant of that and just being mindful as you're enjoying the incredible beauty, but you're not going to find, the Costco, the Target over there. So whatever you have, make sure you pack out as well. So bringing, a trash bag, keeping that in the back of your car and just being aware of that. And obviously supporting local there. You got to make sure you get some banana bread.
Yeah.
Hana. I mean, come on.
Can't forget about the banana bread. Yeah. So Auntie Sandy's is a good one. There's also Halfway to Hana. I mean, it's solid. The road to Hana, there's so much to see and do that Shaka Guide does have an app for the road to Hana. And basically it's a location-based driving tour where we have 3 options. You can do the classic tour, which will go there and back, or the loop, which will go the perimeter, or the reverse, which is the perimeter, but in the opposite direction. And all of those tours have similar content, similar stops, just in different orders, depending on kind of how you want to manage your time. But it's a lot of fun. We do some great storytelling about the Hawaiian history, Hawaiian monarchy, background about the area, specifically Hana and beyond. So check it out if you have a chance on the App Store, Shaka Guide.
And also a tip there would be to download these tours ahead of time. So at your hotel or even before you leave. So you have them on your device. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Plan in advance. I mean, Road to Hana is not something you just kind of wake up and let's go do the Road to Hana. You really have to plan a little bit in advance there.
Okay. Thinking about Maui. Maui is one of those places that is kind of a bucket list. You think about Hawaii, you think about Maui, and many people visit Maui, they get married in Maui, they renew their vows in Maui, do the family reunion on Maui, and a lot of memories are made on Maui. And we hope that this guide will help to maybe guide you to make some of these memories, because that's really what it's all about, is about enjoying the incredible place of Maui, but also making these memories together with your family.
And just one little note, in the show notes, there's a link where we have a very detailed travel guide about Maui where you can kind of read more about what we talked about today.
Next time we get together, we're going to be talking about another island. So be sure you guys subscribe and leave a nice, kind rating below. Appreciate you all. And until next time, be well. Aloha.
Mahalo for listening to this episode of Hawaii's Best. To stay up to date on future episodes, please subscribe and visit us at hawaiisbesttravel.com.